The Dig, out on Netflix now, new film starring Carey Mulligan, Roy Fiennes, and Lily James. It's based on a novel by John Preston, which in turn is based on a real life story. The film takes place in 1939, shortly before the beginning of the Second World War. In the opening scenes, we see Roy Fiennes' character ride his bicycle through the quiet English countryside. As it turns out, he's Basil Brown, an excavator working for a local museum. And he's been hired out by Edith Pretty, a rich widow, played by Carey Mulligan. She's raising her small son in a large estate left to her by her late husband. On the grounds of that estate, in one of the fields, there are several large mounds, presumably burial mounds. And Edith wants Basil to dig them up, find out what's beneath, perhaps discover any artifacts that may be interesting and help learn about the people that once lived on these lands. And so Basil does begin the titular dig, which normally is an unhurried activity, but in this case is actually a race against time in two different ways. Firstly, because the war starting, which could happen any day, would mean immediate suspension of all archaeological activities in the country, and also potentially the destruction of the site by German bombers. And secondly, because Edith herself finds out she's terminally ill and she would very much like to see the results of the work before she passes away. So essentially, it's a really mature, patient, slow film that on the surface level is about archaeology, but really explores much wider themes of mortality, passing, our approach to the finality of death, as well as the human desire to leave something behind, a legacy that will stay on Earth after you're gone. Between Edith and Basil and all the other side characters, I think the movie handles these philosophical debates, explorations amazingly well. At times, it almost feels like reading a book instead of watching the film because of the many different rich perspectives on life presented here. Now, I use the words patient and slow, and that's definitely one of the defining characteristics of The Dig. Despite the pressure of time within the story, as a film, it doesn't rush things. It takes time to develop its themes and topics to the point that for the first half hour or so, I actually thought it was going to go in a different direction, to be more of a love story perhaps, not knowing yet what it was actually planning, where it was actually planning to go with its themes. So it does ask its audience for patience in approaching it, but I think it rewards that patience with a very beautiful tale. Beautiful not just in literary terms, in terms of the writing, but also purely visually. The film is gorgeously shot. There are a lot of scenes seemingly done with natural light during the summer afternoons in the field with the setting sun, or later on in the dusk between the trees. I have no idea if this was really done using natural light or if there was some help with artificial lighting involved, but regardless, this particular technical aspect of the film stands out in a good way. It really evokes that certain summer atmosphere and helps transport the audience into the world of the film. I also really enjoyed the performances across the board, basically, in particular the two lead ones. Carey Mulligan is even more subdued than usual, which is definitely in line with her character, and also means that when she does show emotion, it hits even harder. And Roy Fiennes brings a certain quiet, calm pride and gravity to the table. I completely believed his character from minute one. And also the accent that he's doing is fantastic. Overall, there's really not much to be unhappy about. If you do have the patience to sit down for 2 hours and let yourself just immerse in the film and really think about the themes it explores, I believe you won't be disappointed. Solid movie.